Good morning to all of you, and thank you, Wes, for a very inspiring start to the day. My name is David Puth, and I am a very, very proud member of the Robin Hood Board of Directors, and one of the people who had the privilege of being able to be involved in organizing this round of NCL, something about which I know you're going to all leave feeling very strongly. We feel extremely fortunate to have each of you here today. You represent the people in the community and in the field that are actually changing lives. And we hope that what you take away from this gathering, what you're able to do with this work tomorrow, will make a lasting impact on all of those who we collectively serve. Wes spoke about the possibility of now and about the urgency of the actions that we must all take. That word urgency is going to be with us throughout the day, and I believe strongly through the next 9 months of this year. And nowhere is that urgency more real and recognizable than when we look deeply into the data that is in front of us in all the work that we do. What we learn from those numbers motivates us to solve the overwhelming challenge of mobility out of poverty, and why we must commit together, today and going forward, to do everything we possibly can to move that mobility number to a different place. When people think about data, you think about things that are static and passive, but data is part of what we learn and what we do each day. And the data creates a roadmap for all of us to help solve problems. If you knew that there was a hurricane coming and was going to hit New York in the next week, you would all be looking at the weather patterns and the wind and the data to make a decision about what you would do with your home and with your family and how you would spend your time. Closer to our home at Robin Hood, when we think about the tragedy of homelessness in our city, we use research to try to address that problem. I am certain that even those most toughened by numbers were disheartened greatly by reading that 1.5 million school children last year experienced homelessness at some point during the course of the year. But it's the statistics that support that 1.5 million number that will help us, lead us to help solve that problem. At Robin Hood, we dive deeper, using that supporting information to understand the problem better, the sources of the problem, and how we're going to solve it. We look at the number of children that are living in shelters today. We add that up with the children who are not showing up to school. We look deeply at the market data associated with the rising cost of housing at every level in the city of New York. And we learn that for every 2 low-income households, there is only 1 affordable rental unit. And we know that the result of that is that people either move to shelters, go homeless, or find themselves using a good portion of their income just to pay rent. It simply is not sustainable. And we take all of that data, and we think about how do we need to respond. We use the data to ensure that we do everything we can to preserve the supply of affordable housing in our city. We work very hard on the policy front. We work to organize tenant groups. We help shelter staff use data provided by the Department of Education to understand the numbers of school-aged children who should be in the classroom but perhaps are not. By using that data effectively, we know we will be able to end homelessness in this city, and we will be able to get more kids into the classroom. That's what we're working with this morning, is the data that will help us work together to find better ways to serve the poor in our cities. We all know that the hurricane of poverty is upon us. It's been upon us for a long time. And as Wes has mentioned, it should not be here in a country as successful as ours today. We need to use those numbers, that data, to help us learn how to act. Today, we have an extraordinary privilege of hearing from the foremost leaders in the field on how we translate data, research, and models into policy and practice that will drive an increase in mobility from poverty, not just in New York, but across our country. We'll start by hearing from David A. Williams and the impactful work that he and his team are doing with Raj Chetty at Opportunity Insights in partnership with policymakers and practitioners. and then from Gregory Atch and Donnie Charleston at the Urban Institute, who will walk us through the social genome model and how it's being leveraged to analyze the impact of interventions. And our own Sarah Altman will lead Robin Hood's discussion, the discussion on now Robin Hood's decade-long partnership with Columbia University on the poverty tracker and the dynamics of poverty over time in New York City. We are very, very fortunate to have with us today Nobel laureate Esther Duflo in conversation with Amy Finkelstein and with one of the world's leading philanthropists, Laura Arnold, on the impact of randomized control trials and the important work of understanding the priorities of the lives of the people most impacted by the data that reaches us, something that we simply don't think about. As you'll hear from them, turning data and taking it into making that roadmap, that action plan, will drive lasting and systemic change. This change is only possible with a day like this, with leaders partnering with leaders across roles, across sectors, working together, collectively, and with urgency. You are our community partners. You are the academic leaders in the field. You're out there every day working to change and save lives. We feel so fortunate to be able to partner with you. Our goals today are many, but one is certainly to use all that we learn and have learned to help mobility out of poverty a lasting reality for so many less fortunate. I want to thank you all very much for being here today. I want to borrow a little bit from Wes's call to action and say, how can we take the possibility of now and turn it into the power and the probability of tomorrow? I know that we can do it together. Thank you for being here. Let's have a very successful day.